Welcome back, adventurers! Joel D.D. Algren here, bringing you another Monster Monday. This week we are taking flight with the dragons. We are looking at an ancient mechanical dragon that I made this week, as suggested by Jack Smith over on my Facebook page. We will take a quick look at its abilities and traits, as well as how you can use it in your campaign, and how this creature might work in combat. Before we jump into that, I do have a small favor to ask. If you enjoy my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel, ringing the notification bell, and hitting that like button. It does truly help a small-time creator like me to get seen more out there. Well, enough of that. Let's jump into this video and our new metallic friend, the ancient mechanical dragon. It is a gargantuan creature made of mechanical parts and clockwork gears. Its scales are metallic and rust covered by ages past. Its eyes red and yellow, just like that of molten iron inside of a furnace heart. It is almost always shrouded in a fog of rust and acid. This makes it extremely dangerous to approach at the best of times. The mechanical dragons are not evil or good per se. Their minds, however, are alien to most sentient creatures. Cold and logical in its thoughts, just like a machine. So, to most, they might seem evil, as they have no emotion or moral issues with killing or eating its former friends and allies if it comes down to survival. Perhaps because of this, they have struck up a somewhat amicable relationship with the only other race that thinks like them, the lizard folks. This might be an avenue for play in your game. They are made after a dragon's egg has been infected by a living metal, transforming its organic matter into mechanical parts instead. Most creature infected by this living metal does not survive. However, a dragon's egg sometimes can survive the process. This brings about a mechanical dragon wormling. As they grow into their juvenile stages, they start to become larger and interested in tinkering. They start making crude trinkets and mechanical things, refining them as they grow older. Once they reach the adult stage, they have become able to make living machines, building sentient mechanical kobolds. It is unknown how they can breathe life into these mechanical constructs, but these constructs do follow the commands of their creators as though it is the word of God. At the same time, they start becoming more rust-colored in their metallic bodies. This affects not only their bodies, but also their breath weapon. Now it becomes more acidic and corrosive instead of a metal storm that they breathe when they are younger. As they reach the ancient stage of their life cycle, their presence not only affects their lairs, but also the land around them. Nature starts to transform into a metallic landscape as plants and creatures alike start to take on mechanical parts themselves. More of the lore can be found in the PDF document for my patrons. There's a link for that as well in the description below. Before we take a look at how we use them in the campaign and in battles, we're going to take a closer look at its traits and abilities. It has 5 traits. Construct nature. This just means that the dragons do not require air, food, drink, or sleep to survive. That doesn't, however, mean that they do not enjoy these things. It also has legendary resistances. It can use this 3 times a day, just as any other ancient dragon can. Natural mechanic lets the mechanical dragons make small trinkets and clockwork machinery. However, as we said before, the ancient and adult ones can make automatons that looks like kobolds. They can do this once per day once they've reached the ancient stage. They use these mostly for maintenance and upkeep of their lair. They will, however, defend the mechanical dragons if need be. Machine Minds grants the dragon immunity to mind-altering spells and psychic damage. Rust Fog is the last and biggest trait for the mechanical dragons. It is a very potent effect. Any creature that gets close to the dragon is affected by acid and rust that surrounds these beasts all the time. This effect stretches out 30 feet, and anyone that fails a dexterity saving throw takes 5d8 acid damage, either at the start of their turn or the first time they enter the area. Of course, it's half damage if you save this roll as well. One thing of note when it comes to the Rust Fog is that it is not active as long as the dragon's breath weapon is not charged. So when the dragon used the breath weapon, the Rust Fog stops working until it's charged once more. When it comes to dragon's attack, it has multi-attack of course, and the frightful presence that most dragons of this type has. The dragon can use its frightful presence and make 3 attacks, 1 bite attack and 2 claw attacks. It also has a tail attack, but this is mostly used for its legendary actions. Now, when it comes to its breath weapon, it is called Rust Breath. It is recharged on a 5 and a 6, just like most rechargeable abilities are. It's a 90-foot cone with a DC 23 dex saving throw. Anyone that fails it takes 16d8 damage and half as much on a save. This damage is a bit lower than most ancient dragons, but that is because when someone fails against this breath, any non-magical metallic object will take damage. AC on armor is lowered by 1, and any weapons gets a -1 to their damage rolls. If the AC of an armor drops to 10 and a weapon gets a -5 to their damage, they are completely destroyed, unusable after that. This ability is similar to that of rust monsters and can catch many players off guard. Finally, we have its legendary actions. Like all dragons, it has the detect action, tail attack and wing attack. They work just as they do for all ancient dragons. That's the stat block for the ancient mechanical dragons. So how can we use these monsters? Well, first of all, it is a neutral creature, but it has an alien mind. So even if it's not evil per se, it might do things that would seem evil by other humanoid creatures, especially when it has built a lair and it starts affecting the area around it, transforming it to a more metallic and mechanical landscape. This alone would be a good way to introduce a quest for players to maybe investigate this area, being hired by a noble, wanting the players to clear the metallic curse that is upon the land, and in doing so the players will inevitably encounter the mechanical dragon itself. Or maybe a wizard wants to figure out the source of this unnatural transformation of the land around their tower, hiring the PCs to bring back samples and maybe catch the transformed animals and creatures that have been starting to pop up in the area. This might anger the dragons, as it might see this as its own territory and perhaps even see the new life forms as their children. I think both of these approaches can work very well and fairly easily. I think the best part is if you use the alien terrain, and that would be growing around the lair itself, as the presence of the mechanical dragon is almost terraforming the land into machine and metal. Now, let's talk a little bit about how these dragons might fight. Well, to start off, they do not only fly, but they can also burrow underground. So even when they are taken to the ground, they still have an escape route if necessary. And as we saw before, any close range combatants have to deal with the Rust Fog. If the dragon is confronted by mostly melee combatants, it will rarely use its breath weapon, if it has been taken to the ground at least. This is because it will turn off the Rust Fog ability or feature. On the other hand, it will almost always use its breath weapon as much as possible if most of the combatants are ranged user. I think it's important to try and use the dragon in a more logical way in combat, rather than how you would use an organic creature. It might not react to provocations or instinct in the same way as organics would. After all, it's supposed to be a machine, an ancient supercomputer of sorts. This might make the fight a bit more hard fought for most players, especially if they haven't done any real research about the creature beforehand. It might be a good idea to let them see it in fight with something else, or maybe have a scholar somewhere along the quest that can give them some sort of information about how these creatures work. But that's it, that's the stat blocks, that's how we can use them in quests or in combat. This stat block, the raw version of it, is live on my Patreon now for free. For my $5 patrons, there is also a full PDF with not only the ancient one, but the adult, young, juvenile, and wormling version as well. There is also 2 mechanical kobolds baked into that PDF. But not only that, there is also lore and art in this PDF too. There is also a print-friendly version of the documents for my patrons there as well. But that's it, dear viewers. This is the Ancient Mechanical Dragons. It was suggested by Jack Smith over on my Facebook page, as I said before. If you have any creatures that you would like to see in the future, feel free to leave a comment down below. All my social media is in the description below as well. There will also be a direct link here to the raw free stat block over on my Patreon for this Ancient Mechanical Dragon. Until next time, adventurers, keep your dice rolling and your imagination flowing.